When people ask what makes a rare game or how you can recognise a rare game, I think you could do the cheap option, go, oh, it's the googly eyes.
Eyes on absolutely everything.
Big googly eyes.
Big googly eyes on everything.
But I don't think you can actually spot a rare game.
That's a hard one to answer, because all the rare games are sort of different.
We don't settle into a groove. We always are trying to find something new and exciting to create. And that's not just for the players, because we as developers like doing different things as well. It's a two-way street, but it works really well.
What makes a rare game? Innuendo, British humour.
We very rarely done a game that was completely po-faced and straight-laced. We've always tried to make it so that it's going to entertain, because that's what we're in the business to do, entertain. And there's lots of ways to do that. But, you know, we like having a laugh, and we like everybody else that plays our games to have a laugh.
You've got to come in and have fun every day, right? If you come in and start wearing suits and just acting a bit dry and just worrying about the numbers or worrying about this, then you're not going to create a fun experience.
Everybody has fun. I don't think that you can make fun without having fun, and I think that shows when you play the games.
Ultimately, I think that the core of what makes a rare game is the amount of love and care and attention to detail that the people at Rare put into it.
We're a company of perfectionists. I don't think I've ever seen anyone quite obsess about a small bush that as a big tall tree or as a main character than we do.
Going that extra mile, it was something that everybody picked up off Tim and Chris. Like, they were really convinced that going the extra mile and putting things in games that players don't expect was what would make their title stand out, and I think everybody kind of took the lead from that.
The Rare logo was one of the first logos that I actually even recognised, like, as a gamer, when I was sort of 12, 13.
Everyone remembers the feeling when that Rare logo just spins onto the screen.
I remember feeling like if you saw that logo on the box and at the start of the game when that logo would come up, you knew no matter what game it was going to be your next favourite game.
Everything together to create tangible magic that you can't really put your finger on. It is literally a rare quality.
Nothing felt like a Rare game. It was just special. I don't know why, it just was.
That sounds awful, but you know what I mean. It's true though.
Before I came here, I don't think I could have answered that question, because every game Rare made had a unique quality to it, had something magical about it, an X factor, if you like. And now that I am here, and I've been here a few years, I think what makes a Rare game is the people that work at Rare and the culture of this place.
We've got so many people that live, eat, sleep and breathe video games. They've all got the same view. They all want a great game, they all love it, and they all want to play it.
Even if it meant that you had to spend almost your entire life at work, it was that end result that you were trying to achieve. You know, you were trying to bring out the next Rare game.
I myself am a bit of obsessive and put a lot of hours into this job. And I believe that, I think it shows in the product that if you love the project and you're kind of really passionate about it, you'll put a bit of your soul into it. And I think it sometimes comes at a cost, but it's always a worthwhile cost.
I'm a firm believer that the games that come out of Rare are a reflection of the people that work on them at the time. They've all got this certain something, but they've all got their own identity, and that came from the teams.
The team has the ownership and the kind of the freedom to basically to do what they want and to make the game that they want to make. You know, whatever ideas they come up with, we're like, yeah, let's try it out, let's throw it in the prototype, let's see if it works. You know, we don't want to be restrictive, we don't want to be telling them what they have to do. It has to be the team that's creating this game, right?
And so the kind of the humour, the way they looked at life, the way they basically did everything would be reflective in the games, but it was all being held together by this kind of shared Rare ethos of, if you're going to do a job, make sure you do it properly. After we'd done two kind of platform games, we were kind of looking for the next opportunities.
One part of the team went on to build DKC3, and the other one went on to create a new IP called Project
Dream, which at the time was on the Super NES.
We were all massive fans of Zelda, so we thought, let's do our take on an adventure game.
When I joined Dream, we just started to move it to N64. It had previously been started on SNES, but we were looking to move it onto this new machine.
We had a character on the screen. It looked very nice, but this was like really at the end of the Super NES's life.
We had Edson, which was the hero of the game, and we had Dinger, which was his kind of pet dog that he finds.
And he'd say, "Oh, dog, I can see a dog down there. I better go and see if he's all right." You'd go down, you'd get the dog, and then you'd be chased by trolls. And we worked on that for quite a number of months.
This kind of boy who kind of grew up in a village, and he went out into the big wide world where he gets embroiled in this kind of fantastic adventure. And the main bad guys were a bunch of pirates led by Captain Blackeye.
The view you had was kind of a bit like a game called Pandemonium or Nights into Dreams.
I think the scope of the thing was so large, we couldn't see any end in sight.
Greg and Tim had been talking, and they decided to change the whole styling of the game, and it became something akin to Super Mario 64.
We'd changed the main character from the boy, who we felt was a bit weak, and we felt we wanted something a bit more character. So we investigated firstly a rabbit, and then secondly a bear.
Get rid of this guy. Let's get an animal in there. Bear. We're having a bear. That was it.
It went from being Dream to being Kazoo, but again, it was jumping on things and lots of kind of baddies and different things you could be doing.
And it's all going to be instruments: banjo, piccolo, all of those. You're like, yes, I'll just do it right now.
So we had kind of banjo in this kind of big, sprawling adventure game that we weren't quite sure how we were ever going to finish. So we decided to can Dream at that point, and focus on something we felt a lot more confident we could kind of build.
And I remember talking with Chris Stamper in the canteen once, and he asking me what I thought of banjo, and I still think I was a little bit annoyed that the rabbit had been dumped.
We took banjo from Project Dream and kind of put him in his own game, and we wanted it to be a platformer.
Should have been a rabbit. It would have been Bunny Kazooie or something.
The roaming world of banjo, we encountered a whole new set of problems because we were working in 3D now, and we had things like a camera that we had to keep control of and work out where it was going to go and what's going to happen when the player goes behind a wall.
So we started developing like a moveset for banjo, and I wanted to give him a double jump, having kind of seen Mario's double jump, but I wanted it to be more flexible so the player could double jump anywhere they like.
We were up against Mario. I wanted to try and beat Mario, and that was our thing. Try to do that.
Now, what would explain away the fact that this fat bear can jump in midair? So I think we pondered a few ideas, and when we're getting desperate, and usually when you get desperate, all the crazy ideas come out. And one idea we had was a pair of wings could appear out of this backpack.
All these sort of things that we just encounter as we started developing, and we kind of just tackled them as we encountered them.
So this pair of wings kind of came out of the backpack and flapped, and it explained it away, and it fitted perfectly.
We started testing out proper sort of 3D levels, and we got the character jumping around and swimming and things, and it then went from Kazoo to Banjo Kazoo.
Well, let's have a pair of legs that appear out the backpack to kind of assist Banjo, so it's not him running, it's these legs.
So we then added EI on the end, or IE rather, and it became Banjo Kazooie, and then we just made that.
These wings and these legs could belong to another character, and this character lives in Banjo's backpack and comes out at occasions to help him along. So that was where Kazooie was born. It was probably the breakthrough moment, and then all the dialogue, the interjection between them, and Kazooie being sarcastic and adventurous, and Banjo being like kind of a bit dim-witted and slow. All of that was kind of came afterwards, and it was all literally just built on this wanting a double jump.
We needed like a shaman character, and then it was really just down. We were just left to do, get on with it. So Mumbo quickly took shape with his skull and his feathers and his furry pants, and in those days you could literally draw the character, get someone to approve it, model it,
animate it and have it in the game. It was 2 or 3 days.
So Banjo and Kazooie never speak, but initially they did. I think one of the reasons we made them have that strange garbled noise. We realised that we were going to have to record so much speech, it was going to increase development time considerably.
I did the voice of Mumbo, of course, Ekum Bokum.
The voices for all the characters were just kind of different. A lot of them were Grant, but a lot of them were different people just kind of mumbling sort of different little phrases.
The Ekum Bokum, I just played with it, it sounded good. So Ekum Bokum is made up of come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. So like I went got what I bought it big got eat up like that, and like recorded myself doing that, and then I cut it up into pieces.
When we'd been working on Dream, I'd been doing some of the voices for the boy, and then when he changed to the bear, Tim was looking for a noise. There are noises that he would make and words that he would say. So I did some of the voices for Banjo then, and then it transformed into the gargled noise at the end. So the Kazooie needed a special noise as well, and it needed to be separate from Banjo. It needed to be noticeably different. So we made her a much sharper noise because she was a Breagull. So that was why she was Bree. Stop and Swap, that came about because we discovered by accident that if you pull out the cartridge on the N64, put in another cartridge, the contents of the memory, the RAM, are still there. So we realised that we could use this to make a transfer of some information from one game into another.
The idea was to either reward players for playing rare games, so it's like the more you play, the more you get rewarded, or to actually swap items between games, and that's where the Stop and Swap came from. And so you had to actually quickly grab the cartridge, grab it, and then put the other one in. And I think we were concerned that people were going to do damage to their cartridges.
Unfortunately, we didn't tell Nintendo because we didn't think they'd really need to know until towards the end. And then, of course, when we did tell them, they said, that's not really going to work, and it's not guaranteed to work in all cases for the N64. So as a result, we had to drop the feature, but the remnants of that still exist in both games.
The game, I think, was well received. Again, another massive thing for me was to see Banjo at the top of the all formats charts in the UK.
Yes, I think players appreciated the humour and the charm and the characters we managed to put into the world.
When I see my son play Banjo-Kazooie, it's really heartwarming because it just feels right?
It felt like almost every character you came across had a story to tell. Most of them were sob stories that you had to help out, so it's almost like Banjo was like an agony aunt going around fixing all these problems. So,
like running around in Banjo was fun without doing anything. It was just fun to run around,
I think they loved it, didn't they? What are you saying?
It had all that magic about it. You could feel it. It was in the walls.
I think it was just the whole immersive nature of the world, the fantastic music, the kind of just the charm of it was kind of what elevated it from maybe just another 3D platform into something that kind of people remember.
Battletoads is a beat-em-up game. Battletoads is a platform beat-em-up game. A platform beat-em-up strategy racing. Battletoads is a game that we produced featuring 3 characters which were toads called Rash, Zitz and Pimple. We wanted a set of characters that we could produce huge merchandise for. I remember the Batman film had just hit the movies, and we were looking at all of the different merchandising that you could buy for the film and for the character, and we wanted something like that. The t-shirts, the plastic models, the bedspreads, everything.
At the time with Battletoads, I can remember Tim being very impressed by the Ninja Turtles. So it was meant to be a sort of tongue-in-cheek version, or at least I thought it was meant to be a tongue-in-cheek version of the Turtles.
So it's kind of a typical example of Rare's looking at what was popular and then kind of putting our spin on it, kind of amping it up, making it a bit more edgy, a bit more kind of violent.
We went through all kinds of ideas and names. I think I was going to call them the amphibians at one time, but we ended up with Battletoads and that worked. I wanted it to look kind of Disney-like, but I wasn't anywhere near a good enough artist for that. So we came up with a few different gimmicks, and we had the hands expanding and the foot turning into a huge boot. I think the ability to be able to transform limbs rather than carry actual weapons around, that's what made them unique. I think if you picked up the original NES version of Battletoads now, I think you get a bit of a shock because it was a very precise, very difficult game to play.
Back then they were kind of quite short games, so one way of getting more kind of playability was to provide the player with a decent level of challenge. Mark, who was leading the software effort, was like a really talented player, so he'd set the general difficulty level around what he was good at.
He made it so difficult. You had to be precise to the 100th of the second when to press the button on the controller.
At the time we were avid game players, and it got to the point where I could do the turbo tunnel without losing a life. We even tried to do the last section with the really fast walls with our eyes closed, and we got really close to finishing it, but no one could ever do it. The reviews were quite complimentary on kind of not only how challenging it was, everyone liked it, but I think the variety of the levels was the key to how well it was received. Like on one level it would be sideways scrolling doing one thing, the next level you'd be on a rope going down a thing, then you'd be on a tunnel, then you'd be on some kind of like weird device, then you'd be on the back of a snake. It like jumped around all over the place. It was such a breath of fresh air in terms of the breadth of gameplay in it.
In the arcade version of Battletoads, we were able to be even more over the top with the violence, the comedy violence, than the NES, because there was obviously certain restrictions on what we could produce for a console. So we went as pretty much extreme as we could be, and I think that was to the benefit of the product.
It took a long time to produce because it was all a new kind of game for us, but it was a fun one to work with.
It was like building a car, and you start with no parts. You've got to just start manufacturing each of the parts and then putting them together.
Chris Stamper started working on a board. He actually made the arcade board himself.
Meanwhile, we had to write all the software. Well, I had to write all the software from scratch, so all the audio drivers, all the audio software, all the graphics software. There'd be points where we'd tweak it and we'd say, oh, the hardware is not fast enough here, we need to make some changes. And then he'd add that in, and then we'd change the software again. So there was really quite a bit of collaboration.
Working on the arcade one was a great experience and taught me a lot about a very different type of design, which wasn't all about let's try and keep the player playing for hours. It's literally, let's get the player on the machine, let's take some money off them, let's kill them off as quick as possible, but let's make sure they've had a good enough time so they want to put more money in.
At the end of Battletoads Arcade, we had a boss called Robomanus that you tried to beat, and we were having trouble balancing the game, so it felt like you could beat him if you were on your own when you weren't that good, versus if there was 3 players coming in and really hitting him.
We hit upon this idea of making him super tough at the start, even to the point where you couldn't actually do any damage to him.
For the first 45 seconds, nothing you did actually affected him in any way, but it looked like it did.
It's probably the best idea I've ever had in the industry. It's like, how can we make the final boss take more money? I know. Let's make it so he can't kill him.
There was a few games that we did that actually had a crossover element to them. I think one of the ones, which was a rather odd one, was Battletoads Double Dragon.
I'm guessing it came from the Trade West link, because Trade West were licensees for both Battletoads and Double Dragon.
It just seemed a bit nuts to have these cartoon characters with expanding hands that turn into fists and drills, mixed up with these martial arts dudes from an arcade machine.
Being as the Toads were our characters and Billy and Jimmy weren't, we were pondering whether to make the Toads have better moves and be slightly stronger, so they'd always have this like slight advantage. But in the end, we did the right thing, and it was all fairly balanced.
From Battletoads, I think we were going to try and do a spin-off game called Warhogs with the character called Captain Pork. I think that was Tim's design. I can remember drawing these two characters that were like big, chunky warhog bikers, and they were going to shout pork swords every time they went into battle, but we didn't do it eventually. Battletoads ran over several different consoles. I think we had a Game Boy version, a Super NES version, an NES version, an arcade machine. We had a cartoon, so it's had a pretty good run of it, but I think it'd be quite a nice one to be revived. I'd always love to see a new Battletoads game out there. Maybe we'll make one.